Hey everyone, FinTech here. Today to talk about a fast-growing growth stock with the potential to change the way the internet itself operates. Cloudflare. In this video, I will review the origins of Cloudflare as a company, look at their recent earnings reports, and explain what I think this means for the company's future. I made a previous video comparing two of the fastest growing CDN and edge computing providers, Fastly and Cloudflare. And then more recently, I made a video explaining why I sold all of my shares in Fastly. So I figured at this point it made sense to follow up and explain what I'm doing with Cloudflare as well. One last thing, if you would hit the like button and consider subscribing, engagement helps push this video out to a wider audience, and you can always dislike and unsub at the end of the video if you hate it. With that said, let's dive into Cloudflare's backstory and how it grew into an $18 billion company. Cloudflare was started by three co-founders: Matthew Prince, a computer science undergrad turned lawyer at the University of Chicago; Lee Holloway, a technical architecture wizard; and Michelle Zatlyn, a graduate of Canada's prestigious McGill University who met Prince while studying at Harvard Business School. Matthew Prince is the current CEO of Cloudflare, but before Cloudflare he founded several other companies, including one called Unspam Technologies, which was a company designed to combat spam. Lee Holloway was the chief software architect at that same company until he left with Prince to co-found Cloudflare. In 2007, while Prince was on a break from Unspam Technologies, he was attending Harvard Business School, where he met the third eventual co-founder of Cloudflare, Michelle Zatlyn. While there, Prince and Zatlyn won Harvard's business plan competition with their idea called Project Web Wall. This was a business idea for a project that would act like a firewall for the web. Well, they won the competition, and soon after they moved out west to join Lee in building this idea into a real company. The company started out sticking pretty close to their original business plan, putting security at the center of everything they did. Prince describes what they do like a virtual immune system. They can monitor all the traffic that comes in and goes out through their network, and they can use that traffic to determine bad actors and good actors. If it's a bad actor, they can identify it the same way your immune system would and block them. But if it's a good actor, they can optimize the experience for that good actor. This idea of optimizing the experience for good actors led Cloudflare to go beyond simple security and identity access management into performance products like intelligent routing and reliability products such as vendor-neutral load balancing. They offered these products using a software-as-a-service business model, meaning there was no need for the customer to make any kind of software or hardware changes to use their products. By using this model, Cloudflare made it really easy for customers to try out their product, and once they got hooked, to buy more of their products over time without having to do any extra work. Now, I'm throwing around a lot of terms here, so let's define a few of those. A CDN is a content delivery network. Basically, it is a network of computer servers all over the world which host websites. The goal is to make as many of those servers as possible located as physically close to the people who are going to be using those websites as possible. This reduces latency and allows you to do things such as streaming the video that you're currently watching. The whole point of CDNs is to make accessing data faster, so you don't have to wait for data from some data center 1,000 miles away to send you information. Edge computing is very similar. Now, you've probably heard of cloud computing before, which is basically where you use somebody else's computer on a server to do all your processing for you. With edge computing, it's the same idea, except those servers are again located as physically close as possible to the person who needs the computing done. This makes the latency between the two systems as short as possible. This is super important for something like cloud-hosted gaming like Google Stadia, or something simpler like voice processing for Amazon Alexa or Google Home. Cloudflare's edge computing platform is called Cloudflare Workers. For this product, Cloudflare took kind of a unique approach, deciding not to focus exclusively on speed, stating in a blog post that speed is niche. By saying that, they are directly competing with Fastly, whose stated goal is to have the fastest edge computing network in the world. The reason they're doing this is Cloudflare doesn't feel that speed is actually the most important thing to most customers. In fact, it's more like the cherry on top to the features that customers really care about, such as compliance, ease of use, and cost. Their goal is to build the best product possible before then trying to optimize for speed. Now, we could look at all of these different categories and address individually how Cloudflare is positioned better for each one of those than its competitors, but I want to focus on the biggest one, compliance. Now, compliance generally means meeting rules that are enforced by some kind of regulatory body. For example, if you're storing health information, you have to meet HIPAA guidelines, or if you're doing financial transactions, you need to encrypt those according to some guidelines set by your local government. Now, in addition to the traditional compliance laws around security and encryption, a lot of governments now are also enforcing data sovereignty. This means that not only does the data need to be secure and encrypted, sometimes it has to be physically stored within a certain geographical area like a country. Now, this is hard enough normally because the internet really wasn't designed to be locked down to a specific region. but it's doubly hard for edge computing. It's really hard to hide communications when those messages are bouncing between end devices and nodes and origin servers and the actual software layers which need to read that information, all while making them secure and accessible. With edge computing, there's just so many points that you have to secure. And how do you secure them without impacting the performance of the system or just making it incredibly difficult to develop on? Well, you bake security into the solution itself, something that no one is better positioned to do than Cloudflare. Now, you might be saying, why all the focus on security and edge computing? I thought Cloudflare just hosted websites. While much of Cloudflare's previous revenue has come from securing and hosting websites on their CDN network, I think edge computing is much more key to Cloudflare's future. Yeah, sure, CDNs are nice to make money, but capturing more of the CDN market is not going to grow Cloudflare into a $100 billion company. Inventing new markets with new products very well could. Over the past several years, through a mix of sleek marketing, excellent products, and a rock-solid leadership team, Cloudflare has grown into an $18 billion company. But I think you can only really gain an appreciation for Cloudflare when you look both at what they've already accomplished and look at what they plan to accomplish in the future. If you could rebuild the internet from scratch today, you'd probably make quite a few changes. I think a good analogy for this is what Google did with search engines. Originally, the internet was basically just a series of websites which you had to click on a link to get from one to the other. By creating a search engine, Google linked all these sites together so you could find information more easily. This is the scale of change that Cloudflare is trying to make with their edge computing network. So let's get into Cloudflare's recent earnings report. In Q3 of this year, Cloudflare reported revenues of $114.2 million, an increase of 54% year over year. This beat their revenue growth from their last two quarters, which each had a growth rate of 48% year over year. Their non-GAAP gross profit was $88.2 million, with gross margins of 77.3%. This compared to $58.3 million and 78.3% in Q3 of 2019. Now, non-GAAP simply means that we're not accounting for stock-based compensation, which can sometimes skew the data a little bit. Their net cash flow was $2 million, compared to negative $17.8 million back in 2019. Their non-GAAP net loss per share was just 2 cents compared to negative 16 cents back in 2019. They also had really strong growth among their large customers this quarter, adding net 100 new large customers and adding their first customer spending over $10 million in annual recurring revenue. This is huge as it shows that Cloudflare really has what it takes to compete in the edge computing space and absolutely dwarfs the number of customers added by their competitor Fastly. They also introduced 12 new products as part of their 10-year anniversary. I'm not going to dive into all the individual products since a lot of them can be pretty technical, but I highly recommend reading Cloudflare's blog where they have breakdowns of a lot of these different things and they're really well written and pretty easy to understand. What I like about this is it shows that Cloudflare is investing in themselves and preparing for the future. They're forecasting Q4 revenue of just $118 million. But with their accelerating revenue growth that they've shown the last few quarters, this number seems pretty low. This is supported by the fact that in Q4, all of the customers who are using their Cloudflare free trial, which only lasts for 6 months, will have exited that period and will have had to transition to a paid plan. Now, we don't know exactly how many of these customers are going to transition, but in their last report, Cloudflare said that around 75% were converting from free customers to paid customers. This should translate to increased revenue, and I would not be surprised at all if Cloudflare beat their estimate by a pretty substantial amount. So needless to say, I was pretty happy with their Q3 earnings report, and so was the market, with their stock price jumping up 19% after earnings. The question then is, will this great performance continue in the future? Well, I don't see why not. They seem to check all the boxes. Are they showing accelerating revenues? Check. Are they continuing to innovate and invest in new products? Check. Are they gaining new customers and converting their free customers to paid customers? Check. Sure, Cloudflare could always hit a road bump between now and the end of Q4, but as of right now, I don't see any red flags with this company. This seems to be a rock-solid company with a really excellent leadership team, which gives me a lot of confidence that Cloudflare will be able to continue their past excellent performance into the future. I'm very comfortable with my investment in Cloudflare, and after I sold out of Fastly a couple weeks ago, I used that extra money to buy more Cloudflare stock. Now, at this point, I don't have any other cash laying around on the sidelines, so I'm not going to be buying any more Cloudflare, but I'm definitely going to keep it on my radar, and it is a position that I would grow in the future if I had the opportunity to do so. So what about you? Have you made any trades around Cloudflare since their Q3 earnings? Have you considered buying more or selling some of your shares? Let me know in the comments. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and if you don't want to miss out on any future videos, make sure to both subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you next time.